If you and I were to go visit a classroom together and watch the same teacher and the same students in the very same classroom, we would notice different things. All of us bring our life experiences and our beliefs to the work of schools. How we choose to look at things and what we choose to notice is enormously consequential to teaching. At Vanderbilt University, I teach young, mostly white college students studying education. Many of these students are preparing to teach culturally diverse students in Nashville schools. Students of color and students living in poverty and students whose first language isn't English. The children in Nashville have backgrounds, experiences, and needs that are often very different from the students studying to be teachers. When I started teaching at Vanderbilt, I was seeing education students who were so excited and passionate about teaching. They wanted to make a positive impact on the future students, and they were seeing and noticing and thinking about students in ways that were actually counterproductive to equitable teaching. For instance, when I listened to their language, I often heard them describe their Nashville students through a language of deficits. They embraced the idea that if students just worked harder, if families just valued education, if we could just fix what was wrong with these poor students, then things would get better. Because of the deficits they chose to focus on, they would often miss all the assets and the strengths that their students, families, and communities actually brought to school each and every day. Strengths, assets, and attitudes that they as teachers needed to understand if they were going to help their students thrive. I don't know anyone who goes into teaching wanting to harm children or maintain systemic inequality. But becoming a more equitable educator takes deliberate study and practice. So to help the teachers I work with, I developed a set of educator mindsets, a toolkit that can help teachers look at students, classrooms, and communities in new ways. The mindsets will give you new vocabulary for seeing and talking about equity. When everyone in a community shares this vocabulary, it helps the team identify and talk about issues together. Perhaps most importantly, the educator mindsets can help you focus on the two things you truly can control and improve no matter who you are: yourself and your practice. The equity mindset is about the idea that individual students are going to need different things to succeed, in part because we live in a highly inequitable society. An equity mindset pushes us to consider how we shift our teaching to provide different supports for different students. The asset mindset is about seeing all students as capable of learning, holding high expectations for all students, and using their strengths and talents to help them succeed in a challenging and meaningful curriculum. When teachers focus on students' deficits and have low expectations, it becomes harder for them to develop learning opportunities that are appropriately challenging. At the core of the aware mindset is the ability to talk about taboo topics in schools like gender and religion and sexuality, and in the U.S., the topic of race. Many teachers have been taught directly or indirectly not to talk about students' race or other features of their identity. But when teachers are silent about these topics, they ignore a major factor of how students, especially students from marginalized backgrounds, experience school. Finally, we'll talk about teaching through a context-centered mindset. I like to think of it as, the difference between a teacher who says, "I'm just here to teach math," and one who says, "I'm here to teach my students math." The second teacher approaches her, his, or their work with an appreciation for how students' communities, families, and their lives outside of school impact learning. When we look together at schools and classrooms through these mindsets, we have to start to notice all kinds of new ways that we can support our students and create schools where young people can get a great start at a life filled with opportunity.